Welcome back to the show, everyone. My name is Evan, along with Michael J. Babcock.
What's up?
Two-time WNBA champion Renee Montgomery.
Hello there.
Everybody knows how tough it is for professional athletes to recover from an ACL injury. Unfortunately, they happen all too often. But no one has bounced back from an ACL tear like Adrian Peterson, who in 2011 came back and had like the greatest season of his career, won MVP that year. A lot of people think that a 26-year-old running back tearing his ACL, it could be the end of his career. But Adrian Peterson trained his ass off, worked harder than anybody we've ever seen, and put up record numbers. So now with people like Odell Beckham Jr., Saquon Barkley, and most recently Joe Burrow, all suffering ACL tears, we asked Adrian Peterson straight up, have these guys reached out to you? Are you serving as kind of like a mentor to these guys to help them get back to where you were? We know that Saquon has talked about how he idolizes Adrian Peterson and looks up to him as far as his recovery goes. But Joe Burrow, the #1 overall pick in the draft, you know, he's a talented athlete too. And if I was Joe Burrow, that's the first call I would make. I'd call Adrian Peterson and say, how did you do it? I need to do it too. And so that's what we asked Adrian Peterson. Here's what he said about Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him, you know, and it always sucks to see a player get injured, you know, especially a young guy, first overall pick, you know, high, you know, expectations and bam, you know, ACL injury, you know. So I will be talking to him to be like the poster child for the for the recovery, and, you know, having a lot of guys reach out to me, you know, Odell reached out, Barkley, you know, guys reach out and ask, you know, hey, what is it? What did you do? You know, what are some of the secrets? Can you tell me? And the #1 thing that I always tell them is here. You know, that's the #1 thing. And, you know, of course, with anything that you do, you get out what you put in. You know, so to be that poster child for it is what, you know, is what I envision, because now people, they look and they say, you know what, I can do that. You know, I'll be able to come back. And, you know, Adrian had a MVP season when he came back. You know, I don't know, maybe I will, but shoot, he came back and played that well. You know, I can come back and definitely be better than I was before.
I love that, because athletes, it's like your world is falling apart. People don't understand when an athlete gets hurt, it's like the whole world is falling apart. So you want to get the best of the best help. You want to get the best of the best treatment. And you want the best of the advice you can get. And so Adrian Peterson, having done it, gotten MVP, I can see how people would reach out to him and want to learn how he did it. So I love that he's one of those guys that don't just be like, yeah, I did it, you can do it too. No, he's going to help them. So yeah, I love everything about that.
Yeah, and I think it's only natural that the players, when you have a serious injury, that you would have some doubt about yourself and whether you can come back and be what you used to be. And for people to tell you can do it is one thing, but to actually see a guy like Adrian, I think like Evan said, this guy, not only did he come back blazingly fast, but to have the season that he had, to actually be a better player afterwards than before, I think that has to help guys like Saquon and Joe Burrow and Odell tremendously.
Yeah, there's a lot of players, by the way, that wouldn't do what Adrian is doing, that don't feel that they have any obligation to kind of mentor young players.
And you can look at those guys like competition, Evan. I mean, look, I know one's a quarterback, but you can look at those guys as, hey, if they're in the league, maybe I don't have a job. They are his competition to some degree. And the fact that he's helping them, I think it says a lot about him as a person.
And it's not just one, by the way. It's not like he's just like, oh, I like Saquon, so I'm going to help Saquon. He's willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation with any NFL player who's recovering from an ACL injury. And that, you know, and you can hear him when he talks, he's proud of it. He's proud of the fact that he's taken the time to help build these guys back up and coach them along. And I think that's really respectable, commendable. I think, you know, a lot of players, you hear about the competition like you talked about, Babcock. Some players, they just don't have the time or the energy to invest in other players. But Adrian is doing that, and I think that's great. So props to Adrian Peterson, and good luck to Odell and Saquon and Joe, man. Those guys are superstars, and I hope they have the same kind of comeback that Adrian Peterson had. Welcome back to the show. My name is Evan, along with Renee Montgomery.
Hello there.
I was going to say LeBron's pal, Renee Montgomery. I saw you guys going back and forth on Twitter. That is so amazing that you have that kind of access to LeBron James.
It's crazy. He's a good guy. Like, he literally just saw what I was doing, and then he just reached out. So, yeah, it's crazy to me, too.
In case you don't follow Renee on Twitter, first off, go follow Renee on Twitter. And then also, LeBron James has been praising Renee for her work in the community, helping to get more people to vote, helping, in the social justice campaign, all that stuff. LeBron has just been so complimentary to Renee for all the hard work that she's been putting in. And he once again tweeted at her. It was pretty awesome to see that. I'm not going to lie.
Thank you. I was hyped. I'm not going to even play it cool.
Yeah.
I was hyped.
Yeah. So look, there's some LeBron James news on the horizon here because he just signed a new 2-year, $85 million extension to stay with the Lakers through 2023. And the reason that is significant is because 2023 could be the year that LeBron's son, Bronny James, could make his NBA debut. And there are some rumblings that the reason LeBron wants to stick around that long is because it's his dream to play on the same NBA team as his son. So here's the deal. The league has to change its rule right now to kind of do away with the one and done. And if that happens, which it sounds like it's kind of moving in that direction, if that happens, that would make a LeBron and Bronny team up a possibility. And the other thing is that LeBron's extension gives him the freedom to sign with any team he chooses that season. So hypothetically, if Bronny gets drafted or signs with another team, LeBron could go and sign with that team as well and play with his son. Now, Renee, I got to ask, what do you think about the possibility of this happening? Do you think it's realistic? And do you think it's a good idea?
I think it's 100% realistic. First of all, that's not an accident that it fell in the same year. So things start to line up and it's not a coincidence. So we see that, okay, the timing's lining up. Everyone's doing the math just like you did. The one and done, if LeBron wants it gone, you know how everybody made the joke about the bubble. When LeBron and everyone was playing and going to the bubble, everyone said, well, I guess we're playing and going to the bubble. So
right.
If we're talking about a one and done and is it going to get out of there? And I feel like if LeBron has anything to do with it, I'm sure, just in the sense of, imagine what dad wouldn't want to play on the team with his son. I mean, that's something that I can't even, how does that happen? But with LeBron James, it's a realistic thing. He's still playing at a high level. So it's not like this is like, oh, just keep LeBron around until no, LeBron just won a championship.
Yep. Bronny James is 16 years old, and he was ranked as the 30th ranked high school player in the class of 2023. So, we've been covering him on this show for a long time. Bronny James is a talented kid, man. I mean, he works hard too. He's got a tremendous work ethic. All the basketball experts that look at this kid, they say he flat out ball. We've seen him. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's an unbelievable athlete, just like his father. The question that I have, though, is I understand LeBron's desire to want to play on the same team as Bronny, but is that healthy for Bronny to, you're getting in there as a rookie and you're trying to kind of pave your own way, and all of a sudden you got your dad, literally your father, your own dad on the court with you, giving you directions, and you can't defy your dad because, number one, he's your dad, and also he's LeBron James, who many consider to be the greatest NBA player of all time.
Look, I could see it not being the best scenario for Bronny. Even imagine in practice and you just get yelled at by your dad. That's just not a scenario that you want to do when you're trying to earn your respect and earn your stripes. But on the other side of things, everybody in that gym, everybody in the league knows that's your dad. So there's a certain level of respect people are going to give you just off of that fact. So I see it going both ways. I mean, that dynamic in practice, I just keep thinking about practice because, what about the coach? Is he going to yell at, how hard can the coach yell at Bronny when his dad is standing right there and that's LeBron? So it's I think about so many different scenarios, like traveling. They're going to be sitting beside each other on the flights. It's hilarious to me. I don't know. There's so many things I think about.
Well, do me a favor. Go back to LeBron James. He's your buddy now. Go send him some DMs, find out what the deal is, and come report back on tomorrow's show. Welcome back to the show. My name is Evan, along with Michael J. Babcock.
What's up?
Two-time WNBA champion Renee Montgomery.
Hello there.
We got to talk about the Ball brothers. LIANGELO Ball just signed a 1-year contract with the Detroit Pistons, which means that all three of LeVar Ball's sons are technically in the NBA. You have 19-year-old LaMelo, who was just drafted in the first round of the NBA draft by the Hornets, playing for Michael Jordan over there. And you have Lonzo Ball, who's a former #2 overall pick by the Lakers, who's now playing for the New Orleans Pelicans. So 3 Ball brothers, 3 NBA teams. I mean, LeVar Ball took a lot of heat for the way that he raised his kids, but, does the end justify the means here? I mean, all 3 are in the NBA right now.
I mean, with a name like Ball, too, it's like they were meant for it. It's one of those names. We talked about this. Like, I get jealous of the names, but they are the Ball brothers, and there's no question that they can play. You know, a lot of people, because of all the antics that their dad does, a lot of people forget that they are good players. Like,
Right.
NBA scouts don't just take charity cases. You know, like, that's just not a thing.
So that's what I want to focus on, actually, Renee, is the fact that, like, he hasn't played a competitive high-level ball, really, since high school. I mean, he went to UCLA, LIANGELO, but obviously left the program following that international incident where he was stealing sunglasses while in China. And it took presidents and CEOs of companies to get him out of, he was detained out there. It was crazy. So he left UCLA. That was a couple of years ago. He went to Lithuania and played with his brother Melo out there and did okay. He played in LeVar's JBL league, which was a one-year league with some decent players. Then he did okay there. He was supposed to play in the G League for the Oklahoma City Thunder earlier this year, but coronavirus, robbed him of that experience, that opportunity. So he didn't play really in the G League at all. So when the Pistons sign him for a contract here, they're kind of rolling the dice on a guy who, he's 6'5", 215 and comes from a family where his brothers are obviously playing at a high level and people think that there's a ton of talent there. Do you think that the Detroit Pistons made a smart move by signing him to a one-year contract? They're paying him close to $1 million. What do you think, Renee?
And that's what I was going to say. I know it might sound crazy, but that's nothing in the NBA. I mean, to pay somebody close to just $1 million, that's a very small contract. It's not guaranteed. They're playing with house money in a sense of if they get anything from him, that's a bonus. Because just if you look at the contracts going around, a $1 million contract. Now, I know it sounds crazy to us, but that's really just not a lot of money in the NBA.
That's life-changing money to most people. It's so crazy. And to him, he's going to be the lowest paid brother in his family.
I know his brothers are probably going to make fun of him for that measly little salary that he makes.
It's crazy. By the way, we talked to LeVar Ball about Gelo's potential a little while back, and he told us on camera, watch this, that he thinks Gelo is a better player with more potential and a better skill set than Zion Williamson. Watch this.
He'd be the biggest and the strongest two guard in the NBA right now. Ain't nobody built like him at the two guard.
Can he?
Nobody. 6'6", 240. Can shoot the three, post you up, kill you. But you're going to see. You're going to see.
Can he be a lottery pick, LeVar?
Man, if Gelo was coming out doing this thing, he'd be the first pick.
This year?
This year, he'd be the first pick. Can't nobody hold a candle to that boy.
Over Zion Williamson?
He can't hold a candle to that boy. Why? Because he'll shoot his lights out, man. And he's stronger than Zion.
Stronger than Zion? Zion's a big boy.
He could be big, but he ain't no big baller. He's a Williamson. Williamsons ain't stronger than ballers.
I loved. I had the great angle on that one too, the nose. Look, I know a lot of the things that LeVar says sounds ridiculous, but like at what point do you say this guy knows what he's doing? He's got two sons who were top 3 picks. Now he has another kid who is on the Detroit Pistons. LeVar Ball knows what he's doing. And yeah, do I think that the Zion comparison is a little bit silly? Sure, but he has 3 sons in the NBA. He's always said that was the goal, and I am done doubting LeVar Ball or any of his kids. They can hoop. They are very talented, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually a contribution on the Pistons here. I really believe it.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Evan, along with 2-time WNBA champion Renee Montgomery.
Hello there.
Now, Renee, you played in the WNBA for 11 years, and now there is a huge story that's surfacing about a coach who's being hired who will become the only black female coach in the WNBA, ending a drought that's gone on for over a year, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of players in the league are black women. There were no black women in the head coaching ranks throughout the entire 2020 season. And just now, Vickie Johnson has agreed to become the head coach of the Dallas Wings. So now there is one black woman who will be the head coach of a WNBA team. And Renee, I know you and I spoke about this last night, but can you kind of explain to people why this is such a big deal and why people are upset that there wasn't a black woman as a head coach in all of 2020?
Yeah, it was a topic of discussion. right when Brian Agler was fired, a lot of fans took to Twitter, took to social media to let the Dallas Wings know that we have to hire black and we have to hire a black female. Like that's what people were saying. It was like, how could we not? And the reason that a lot of fans were saying that, and just a side note, you know, the CEO of the Dallas Wings, when they talked about hiring Vickie Johnson, he made sure to state that she's qualified and she's the best candidate. She just so happens to be a black woman. So putting that out there, because a lot of the fans made it known that there are a lot of qualified women for the job. And they started to name them. They started to make lists. You know, there were lists sent, there were lists tweeted. Like the fans were speaking in large numbers. So I almost expected them to hire a black woman. But the point is, it's not just hiring a black woman just to check the box. Most of the players in the league are black women or women of color. So it was something that was almost a no-brainer.
This is an interesting statistic. Of the 144 players who were in the WNBA in 2019, 127 of them identified as either black or a woman of color. So overwhelming majority of players are black women, yet nobody's hiring a black woman to coach the teams, which is crazy because you would look and you would say, okay, obviously there are tons of qualified black women with experience, with the basketball smarts, everything that you need. There's a huge pool to choose from, and yet nobody was pulling the trigger until now. Now, we should say the last black woman who was the head coach of a WNBA team was Pokey Chapman, who was fired at the end of the 2019 season. So there was no black woman as a head coach in all of 2020. And like you had mentioned earlier, the only reason that Vickie Johnson is getting her shot is because the previous coach, Brian Agler, was fired after the Wings missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. So they're hoping Vickie.
Yeah, and I want to add something. You know, like a lot of times, or I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes in coaching, when a black coach gets a job, it might not be the most appealing job. Like we've seen it in the NBA happen where they have to rebuild a team.
Yeah.
So for this one, I'm excited for Vickie because Dallas has a young roster that's very talented. So I'm excited that she's actually put in a position where she can succeed and do well.
I was looking at the roster. They got some studs over there, right?
Yeah, they got Enrique Agumbawale. They got a nucleus there that is a scary team to play against. As a player, that's a team that you don't want to play against because you know you're going to be in a dogfight.
Yeah, Enrique was the 5th overall pick in the 2019 draft, and then she was all at WNBA first team point guard in 2020. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, she's a problem. Man, she's a problem. She has a brother playing in the NFL. I mean, there's the athletic family, genes out of this world. But again, her work ethic and her talent shows on the court. She's fun to watch. She is a fun young player to watch.
Now, as for Vickie, Vickie played in the WNBA for a long time. I think like 8 or 9 seasons, maybe even longer than that.
Two-time All-Star.
Two-time All-Star. And then she got into coaching, and she was an assistant coach over in San Antonio for a couple of years, was the head coach for 1 year until the team hired Bill Laimbeer to take over. And then she's been his assistant ever since. But now she's getting an opportunity to really take over a program and make it her own. And I wish her nothing but success. She's earned this. She's 40 years old. It probably came a little too late for her. I wish she'd gotten a shot earlier, but, you know, she's got to make the best of her opportunity now. She's got the players to do it.